high call series.
So we have already completed the lesson regarding the Great Indian Desert, and it is now time for us to do the activity part of this particular lesson. Okay. So the activity starts with a fill in the blanks question. See, five sentences are given there. And every sentence has a blank also. Okay. There are five sentences with a blank each, and we need to read this sentence one by one. Check with what we have learned regarding the same in the lesson, and based on what we have learned in the lesson, we need to complete these blanks. Right? That's a task. What should we do? We need to read these sentences. So there are five sentences here, isn't it? There are five sentences here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we need to read these sentences one by one and check regarding what we have learned about this particular blanks which are mentioned there. Okay? We need to check with what we have learned regarding that blanks, and with the options, we need to complete those blanks. So the first question is, the Thar Desert is in the state of dash. So which was the state that we were basically dealing with when we were talking about the Great Indian Desert or the Thar Desert? It was Rajasthan, isn't it? Yes, almost all, the entire Rajasthan is now the Thar Desert. It extends from the Kutch region in Gujarat till the Haryana, the state of Haryana, isn't it? Yes. So, the state that was in which we have Thar Desert, or the major portion of the Thar Desert or the Great Indian Desert, is in Rajasthan, right? Second one, in Rajasthan, mostly people live near dash and grow crops there. So, is it possible to grow crops in Rajasthan or in Thar Desert? No. Why? The soil is a sandy soil. It's not fertile soil. Then, there are no irrigation facilities. There are no water facilities also, isn't it? So there are some areas where they can find some water and some fertile soil also there around it. And we can see some human settlements around those regions is what we have learned, isn't it? So the area which provides some amount of water and which support cultivation of crops is called oasis, isn't it? So in desert, mostly people live near an oasis and grow crops there. Okay, so oasis is that place in a forest where we can find water. Third, the only river that flows in Rajasthan is Luni. Luni is the name of the river that flows through Rajasthan. Our desert receives a dash rainfall. What kind of rainfall? Heavy rainfall, moderate rainfall, slight rainfall, or very little rainfall. What kind of rainfall does the desert regions receive? Yes, desert regions receive very little rainfall. What kind of rainfall is received in desert region? Very little rainfall, right? Now, in deserts, dash are common during the summer season. Hot sand winds, isn't it? So what do we call that? Dust storm, right? So what do you mean by a dust storm? The hot winds, heavy winds, which carry a large amount of sand from one place to other, is called dust storms, isn't it? Yeah. So in deserts, dust storms are common during the summer season. Now, shall we check the answers? Yes. See, the Thar Desert is in the state of Rajasthan. The Thar Desert is in the state of Rajasthan. In deserts, mostly people live near an oasis to grow crops there. Okay. Next, the only river that flows in Rajasthan is Luni. Luni is the river that flows through Rajasthan. A desert receives dash rainfall, very little rainfall. Then in deserts, dash are common during the summer season. Dust storms are common during the summer season. Right? So So these are the 5 sentences and the blanks. We have completed them. Now I'll keep the screen the same for another minute for you so that you can read these 5 sentences once again. Okay? Now the second one. So write T for true and F for false. Right? True or false. 1. The Great Indian Desert is also known as the Thar Desert. So the Great Indian Desert is also known as the Thar Desert. It's a true statement. It's a true statement. Why? Because both are the same. The Thar Desert is also known as the Great Indian Desert, or the Great Indian Desert is also known as the Thar Desert. Right? The climate of a desert is very cold in every season. When does the climate of a desert change into very cold? During night time, isn't it? Not throughout any season, but during day it's very hot and during night it's very cold. Extreme hot temperature during the daytime and extreme cold temperature during the night time is a speciality of a deserts, right? Okay. 3. Deserts have a scarcity of water. Deserts have scarcity of water. It's a true statement, isn't it? The answer is true. Why? It never rains much in the deserts. There are no definite water sources in deserts, right? So the deserts have a scarcity of water. Horse is the most useful animal in the desert. While dealing with the Thar desert, we have dealt about animal also. What was that animal? Yeah, this particular animal which has got the padded paws, flat legs, which can easily walk on the sand so without sinking its leg into the sand. It can live for weeks without drinking water or taking food. What was that animal? Camel, isn't it? Was it horse? It was not a horse, but it was a camel. So camel is the most useful animal in a desert and not a horse. So this answer is a false. It's a false statement. Udaipur is called the city of lakes. True. There are a lot of lakes there in Udaipur, by which it's also called the city of lakes. So that's a true statement. Okay. So the Great Indian Desert is also known as the Thar Desert is a true statement. Then the climate of a desert is very cold in every season is a false statement because it's cold only during the night time. Deserts have scarcity of water is a true statement. Horse is the most useful animal in a desert is a false statement because horse is of no use, but camels are the most useful animal. Udaipur is also called the city of lakes is a true statement because there are a lot of lakes there in Udaipur. Right? So that is a true and false section. I will keep the screen the same for another minute so that it can be useful for you to read these questions, the statements, and the answers once again. Right? Now, the third one. Name the following. See, 5 descriptions are given here and we need to identify the suitable answers for this. 5 descriptions are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 descriptions are there. And now we need to find the answer for them. Now, first one. The capital city of Rajasthan. What is the capital of Rajasthan? Jaipur. What is the capital of Rajasthan? Jaipur is the capital of Rajasthan. Second question. The only river of Rajasthan is a river Luni. Okay. It originates at the southern ends of Aravalli range and flows to the southwest and joins Ran of Kutch. Okay. The only river in Rajasthan is a Luni. The canal which changed Rajasthan into a green area. 40,000 hectares of land is actually converted by the government themselves as the largest wheat producing area in India. So what has brought this much change in Rajasthan? Yeah, there is a canal, isn't it? There's a canal which brings the water from Satluj and Bias to the plains of Punjab and Rajasthan and making it one of the most fertile regions which produce wheat. So what is the name of that canal? The canal is called Indira Gandhi Canal or the Rajasthan Canal. Okay, Indira Gandhi Canal or the Rajasthan Canal is a canal which has changed Rajasthan into a green area. Now, the main languages spoken in Rajasthan. The people of Rajasthan speak basically 2 languages. They are one is Rajasthani, second is Hindi, the common language of North India. Right? Rajasthani and Hindi are the languages that are spoken in North India. Sorry, Rajasthan. The pink city, the city which is known as the pink city, the lake city is Udaipur, pink city is Jaipur. Pink city is Jaipur. Right? So that is it, the answers. The capital city of Rajasthan is Jaipur. The only river of Rajasthan is Luni. The canal which changed Rajasthan into a green area is called the Indira Gandhi Canal. The same canal is also known as the Rajasthan Canal. The main languages spoken in Rajasthan is Hindi and Rajasthani. The pink city is Jaipur. Right? So now I will keep the screen the same for another minute for you so that you can read it once. Right? Now it's a time for the answer the following questions. So there are 5 questions given here about this lesson regarding the Great Indian Desert that we have learned. And what we need to do is to identify the answers for these questions. So what is a desert is the first question. What is a desert? A desert is a barren area where rainfall is less, vegetation is scarce, and has extremely high or low temperatures. So, vast barren land area with very less rainfall, scarce vegetation, and has extremely high or low temperature. Okay, so it's a vast land area without any rainfall and without much vegetation. Very few number of plants do grow there. and that too here and there, not everywhere. And the temperature is extreme low or extreme high, right? Extreme low during the night time, extreme high during the daytime, isn't it? Yeah, such places are called a desert, right? So a desert is a barren area where rainfall is less, vegetation is scarce, and has extreme high or a low temperature, right? Now, the second question. What is an oasis? A fertile spot in the desert where water is found is called an oasis. So, we have seen that deserts are vast sandy regions where at some places we can find some water. And the soil around that region also do support the crops, and then we can see some people living in that region. And these regions are called oasis, right? So what is an oasis? Yeah, the spot in the fertile spot in the desert where water is found is called an oasis. Third one, where does the Great Indian Desert lie? Where does the Great Indian Desert lie? The Great Indian Desert lies to the west of the Northern Plains. So we have seen the mountains, the Northern Mountains. Below that, we have the Northern Plains, and the west of that, we have seen in the map also. We have seen the Great Indian Desert. So the Great Indian Desert lies to the west of Northern Plains. Next one. What kind of a climate is found in Rajasthan? What kind of a climate is found in Rajasthan? The climate of Rajasthan is extreme. It's very hot in summer and very cold in winter. Days are very hot and the nights are very cold throughout the year. See, the climate of Rajasthan is extreme. Desert region, they have extreme climatical conditions. You see, it's very hot in summer. Okay, too hot during the summer and too cold during the winter. Days are very hot throughout the season. Days are very hot and nights are very cool. Why is a camel called the ship of a desert? Why are camels called the ship of a desert? Camel is the most useful animal in the desert. It's true, there are no other animals which can match with the ability of a camel to cope with the desert. It can store sufficient food as a fat in its hump. It can travel on sand without food and water for many days. It has large padded feet so it can walk over the sand easily. So it is rightly called the ship of the desert. So the major problems in deserts are the sandy soil in which our legs will sink into. It's very difficult to find food and water. So camel has all the facilities to cope up with these three difficulties. First of all, it has a padded feet, large flat padded feet which will not sink into the sand. Second, it can store food and water as a fat in its hump and it can travel without food and water for days. So, camel is rightly called the ship of the desert. Okay? See, read the questions once again. What is a desert? A desert is a barren area where rainfall is less, vegetation is scarce, and has extremely high or low temperatures. Second, what is an oasis? A fertile spot in a desert where water is found is called an oasis. Third, where does the Great Indian Desert lie? The Great Indian Desert lie on the west of Northern Plains. Fourth, what kind of a climate is found in Rajasthan? The climate of Rajasthan is extreme. It's very hot in summer and very cold in winter. Days are very hot and the nights are very cold throughout the year. Why is a camel called the ship of a desert? Camel is the most useful animal in the desert. It can store sufficient food as a fat in its hump. It can travel on sand without food and water for many days. It has large padded feet so it can walk over sand easily. So it's rightly called the ship of the desert, right? So now I'll keep the screen the same for another minute so that we can read all these questions and the answers once again. Read it loud, read it thoroughly. Fine? Project work. Nomads generally keep on moving in search of livelihood. They are seen in every city now. Right, a short note on their lifestyle, what dresses they wear, their occupation, the houses they live in, and the language they speak. So in this lesson, we have actually discussed about the Banjaras, isn't it? Yeah, the nomads of Rajasthan, right? So the question says now we can see these kinds of nomadic groups almost in every cities. Almost in every cities we have these nomadic groups, right? Now, write a short note on the lifestyle of these people, like what do they wear, what do they eat, what are their livelihoods and all, right? Now, see, the nomads in India have lost their livelihood because of drastic changes in transport, industries, production, etc. So earlier, these nomadic groups were not this much of wandering groups. They were mostly based on a particular region. For example, these Banjaras are there, no? Yes, so they were seen only in the Rajasthan region, but now we can see Banjaras in our region also, right? Why? Because of the drastic changes in the transport, industries and production. So earlier, what happened was that, for example, if there are some merchants who want to buy something from the regions in Pakistan and they have to cross the Thar desert, they will take the help of these Banjaras. Okay, they have got the caravans, right? But now we need not depend upon any such kinds of transportation because we have got a most modern transportation, right? Which is faster, cheaper. So now people depend on those kinds of methods than the Banjaras. And now Banjaras have got no occupation. So now they wander throughout the nation in search of something to, live upon. So they are working as a salt traders, fortune tellers, conjurers, actors, storytellers, snake charmers, basket makers, etc. So now what they do is they will go from place to place, from one place to another they travel and they try to find a livelihood based on the location where they go. In some regions, especially when there are the festivals and all, they will become magicians or storytellers or actors, part-time dancers. So they do different kinds of jobs nowadays in search of a livelihood. They live in the huts and the suburban areas with little facilities. They also learn to speak the regional languages. So they live in the huts in the suburban areas. Suburban areas means what? The outskirts. Not in the cities, not entirely left off from the city, but very close to the city, but not inside the city. Right? So to make huts and live there will be comparatively cheaper. So they live in the suburban areas with little facilities. They may not have all the facilities like at least like something that they used to enjoy earlier, but still they live there. Then They also learn to speak the regional languages also. So in addition to the languages that they know, like Rajasthani or Hindi, they now do learn different regional languages also. So there are a group who are roaming around in Andhra Pradesh now. So now they learn Telugu. Some region, some people, some other group will be in Tamil Nadu and they will be learning Tamil, right? So, based on the region where they basically roam around for a livelihood, they learn to speak the regional language of that particular region also, right? So, that is the answer. The nomads in India have lost their livelihood because of the drastic changes in transport, industries, and production. So they are working as a salt traders, fortune tellers, conjurers, actors, storytellers, snake charmers, or basket makers. They live in the huts in the suburban areas with the little facilities. They also learn to speak the regional languages. Right? So now I'll keep the screen the same for a minute in front of you so that you can have a look at these questions once again. Mark the following on the outline map of India: the Great Indian Desert region, the Indira Gandhi Canal, the Aravalli Range, cities of Jaipur, Jodhpur, Bikaner. Okay, so yeah, here is a map of India, and we have these regions marked in that. You see, this is the Great Indian Desert region. The dotted region is the Great Indian Desert region. Okay, two, the Indira Gandhi Canal. This line that what we can see over here is the Indira Gandhi Canal, which is actually taking the water from the river Satluj and the river Bias. Third one, Jaipur, Jodhpur, Bikaner. See, this is the Aravalli range. This is a Aravalli mountain, and from here is a Luni river originate and flow just this much and flows into Rann of Kutch. So it is on the western side of this Aravalli, Jaipur, the capital city of Rajasthan, locates. Right? Then Jodhpur is almost at the central Rajasthan region and towards the western boundary with the Pakistan, or on the western side of Indira Gandhi Canal is a Bikaner. Right? So this shaded region, the dotted region is the Great Indian Desert or the Thar Desert. This line is the Indira Gandhi Canal, which helps in making hectares and hectares of land cultivatable. This line here is the Aravalli Range. To the west of Aravalli Range is the capital city of Bikaner. To the west of Indira Gandhi Canal is Bikaner, close to the border with Pakistan, and Jodhpur is almost at the center of Rajasthan. Right? Okay, so now I'll keep this screen the same for another minute for you so that you can have a better look at it. Clear? Now, hots. How do plants like a cactus and animals like a camel live in such hot conditions? Give two reasons each. So, we have seen that the vegetation, plants or animals in desert region is very scarce. We can see only some specific kinds of plants there, like the cactus. And very few animals like a camel live in the desert region. So how is it possible for the plants like a cactus and animals like a camel live in the desert? We need to give up two reasons each. So what are the reasons? See, animals and plants in desert regions have developed different ways of adaptation to survive in the extreme temperature and the lack of water. So these two are the two common features of deserts. Water, extreme temperature, lack of water. Right? Extreme temperature, lack of water are two major problems that we can find in the desert regions. Isn't it? Yes. Now, these animals and the plants like a cactus or a bubble, okay, and animals like a camel, rattlesnakes or a kangaroo rat, right? So these animals have developed different types of adaptation. Different types of adaptation. Adaptation means what? Yeah, some changes in themselves which is not seen with other plants and animals. Right? And that is how they are able to survive in the extreme climatic conditions of a desert. So how do the plants adapt themselves? Many plants go very deep in search of water. They have thick fleshy stems in which they store the water. The leaves are in the shape of spines, reduce transpiration. So when we discussed cactus in the lesson, I've told you cactus are such kind of plants which have got a very long root system. So their roots can go farther and deeper in search of water. Okay? So cactus plants have got such kind of a root system which can go very farther and deeper in search of water. And whatever water they brings up, they store as a gel kind of a stuff in the stem itself. Okay? So cactus do not have leaves, they have stems. That stem is actually in the shape of a leaf. Okay? So they store the water in a thick fleshy stems and their leaves are converted into thorns. Cactus have thorns, no? Right. So why these leaves are converted into thorns? One, thorn gives them protection from the animals who are always in search of water. Two, it reduces transpiration. Transpiration means water. Yeah, evaporation of water from plants is called a transpiration. Okay, so we know plants absorb a lot of water from the soil, right? They absorb a lot of water from the soil and that is actually traveling through different parts of the plant, so through the branches to the leaves, isn't it? Where these plants are living in extreme temperature, this water will get evaporated from the leaf also. There are very small holes called pores. Okay, so if a leaf is flat, it will have more such pores and this water will get transpirated through the pores, right? But if a leaf is in the shape of a spine, then it will have very few holes. There won't be much transpiration. So most of the plants like a cactus that live in the desert region, they have three specialities. One, a root system which can go very deep and farther in search of water. Second, thick fleshy stem. Third, thorny leaves. Right? Now, what about animals? See, tortoises, foxes, snakes, etc. spend their days napping in burrows and creep out at night. So some animals, what do? Like a tortoise or a fox or snakes, they come out of their burrow only during the night. What is the speciality of nights in deserts? Yes, days are very hot, nights are very cold, isn't it? Nights are very cold, it's not hot. So, these kinds of animals like a tortoise or a foxes or the snakes can easily withstand the cold temperature but not the hot temperature. Okay, so during night time, they come out and they hunt during that time. First thing. Second, animals like a snake get water from the prey they eat. So the fox or the snakes, they eat other animals, right? They eat other animals. So when they eat other animals, the liquid, the fluid, the water in the body of the animal gets into their body. Okay, because we eat the food and for water we drink water, isn't it? Isn't it? And these animals need not drink any water because the water that is already there, either in the form of any body fluids, blood, or some water that is in its stomach, will convert into their body water. Okay, so they get water from the prey they eat. Then animals like camels have a thick fur on the top of the body. It prevents evaporation, exasperation, right? Then it can also store water for many days, right? So most of the animals come out into the hot desert only during the night time because climate will be cool during that time, right? Then they get water from the animals they eat. Third, some of the animals like camels have got their own adjustments on the body, like a fur which can protect them from the hot sun, or a specific hump in which they can store the food and water in the form of fat, right? So these are some kind of features that we cannot see with animals in the usual regions. Okay, so in such ways, the animals and plants in the desert region have developed their own adaptations so that they can survive the extreme climatic conditions of a desert. Right? Okay. Now, I'll keep the screen the same for another minute so that we can read them once again. Okay. So that is the lesson part of the Great Indian Desert. You can read this lesson and do the activities in those activities that what we have discussed now in the PDF, which is actually attached along with the video lesson. The next class we will meet again with a new lesson. So till then, stay home, stay safe, take care.